Today, we're jumping into a really fascinating Christian feast day, the Exaltation of the Holy Cross. Now, exaltation, it just means to lift something up, to hold it in the highest possible regard. And the cross, well, we all know the cross was a gruesome instrument of execution.
So, that leads us to the huge question we're tackling in this explainer. How on earth did an instrument of torture become the world's most recognized symbol of hope and salvation? It's a wild thought. Okay, let's get into it.
Think about it. It's a total paradox. Celebrating a cross is kind of like celebrating an electric chair or a guillotine. It seems, morbid. But to really understand it, we have to go way, way back to a much older story.
In this story, you'll find it in the Old Testament book of Numbers. It might seem like it comes out of left field at first, but stick with me here, because it holds the absolute key to unlocking this whole mystery.
It's a story that's all about a serpent on a pole. Sounds weird, I know, but it's this incredible tale of complaining, of repenting, and of a really peculiar cure.
So picture this. The Israelites are in the desert. Yeah, they escaped slavery in Egypt, but this journey to the Promised Land, it's brutal. It's long. And as the text says, their patience is completely worn out. They're tired, they're hungry, and they're just done. So they start complaining.
And they don't hold back. They basically scream at their leader, Moses, "Why'd you bring us out here to die? There's no food, there's no water." They're at the point where they're saying that being slaves in Egypt was actually better than being free out here with God.
So the consequence for this total loss of faith, it's pretty terrifying. The text says God sent seraph serpents among them. That basically means fiery, venomous snakes. So people are getting bitten and they're dying. The whole camp is just filled with fear.
Well, when you've got deadly snakes everywhere, you tend to rethink your choices, right? The people have a total change of heart. They rush to Moses and they admit it. They say, "We have sinned by complaining against God and you." They're begging him to pray to God to just get rid of the snakes.
Okay, and this is where the story gets really, really strange. The cure that God proposes, it's not what you'd expect. He doesn't just snap his fingers and make the snakes disappear. Nope. Instead, he gives Moses these very specific instructions. 1, make a serpent out of bronze. 2, put it up on a pole. And 3, whoever is bitten just has to look at it and they'll live.
It's a bizarre command, but Moses does it. And, get this, it actually works. The very image of the thing that was killing them becomes the tool for their healing. Just looking at it, an act of faith, is what saves them. Hang on to that detail. It's important.
All right, so what does a story about snakes in the desert have to do with the cross? Well, hundreds of years later, Jesus himself makes a direct and honestly a pretty shocking comparison.
He's talking with this guy named Nicodemus, and he's trying to explain what his whole mission is about. And to do it, he pulls this ancient desert story right out of the history books. Jesus says, "Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up." Whoa. Okay, let's break that down. He is directly comparing his own crucifixion, being literally lifted up on a cross, to that bronze snake on a pole. And the reason, he says, is exactly the same, so that anyone who looks to him in faith can find life.
So you see, this phrase, lifted up, is doing double duty here. On the one hand, it's the physical act of being raised up on a cross, which was the ultimate humiliation. But on the other hand, it's about a spiritual journey from that very humiliation to glory, to exaltation.
There's this beautiful ancient Christian hymn that got written down in the letter to the Philippians, and it lays out this path perfectly. It says that Christ, even though he was God, didn't cling to that status. Instead, he emptied himself. He took on the form of a slave. He humbled himself, and he became obedient all the way to death. And not just any death, but death on a cross.
And here is the absolute heart of it all. It's this incredible reversal. You can see it right here. Because Christ went through this profound act of humility, becoming a slave, dying on a cross, God's response was to greatly exalt him. His absolute lowest point became the very reason for his highest point of glory.
So let's bring it all home. By putting all these pieces together, the snake, the cross, this great reversal, we can finally see how an instrument of death becomes a powerful symbol of life.
It's the same logic, you see.
Just like the Israelites had to look at the image of the very thing that was killing them to be saved, the Christian belief is that you have to look in faith to the cross, the instrument of Christ's death, to find eternal life. The symbol of suffering gets completely transformed into the means of salvation.
And right after Jesus makes that serpent comparison, we get one of the most famous verses in the entire Bible, and it explains the why behind all of this. It wasn't about anger or punishment, it was all about love. This whole incredible plan was put into motion because, as it says, God so loved the world.
And just to make sure nobody misses the point, the Gospel of John really doubles down. It says the whole reason for lifting up the Son of Man wasn't to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him. So the cross isn't a symbol of judgment, it's a symbol of a rescue mission.
So we end up right back where we started, but with a totally new way of seeing it. The exaltation of the cross is really a celebration of this deep, profound paradox. It asks us to think about a really radical idea, that healing can come from facing our wounds, that glory can be found in humility, and that somehow life can be found by looking to an instrument of death. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. What does it truly mean for us to transform an image of suffering into a symbol of salvation?